Rose Garden, and welcome to Character Corner, the segment of my channel where I share and discuss characters from my books. I'm Avalon Roselin, indie author, and the winner of February's character poll was Nicolas Rasmussen from Like Falling Stars. Yes, I am a few months late getting this done, but in my defense, I am having a terrible mental health year. Anyway, I gave my supporters the chance to choose which fairy prince got to stand in the spotlight, and Nicolas was chosen. I suppose this makes sense. Nicolas is the deuteragonist of Like Falling Stars, and Anne already has a Character Corner video on this channel. I think it will be interesting to see how my style has developed and grown since I last drew her. If you'd like the opportunity to vote in polls that help me decide the next Character Corners, please consider becoming a supporter on Ko-fi or Patreon. It comes with all kinds of perks and benefits, and you'd be helping a queer indie author survive in this capitalist hellscape. As I said, Nicolas is the deuteragonist of Like Falling Stars, and is most often playing opposite to either Anne or Jack. And opposite is the key word there. Nicolas is very formal, owing to the social rules that he was taught in his youth, which he strictly adheres to. Unfortunately, the rest of fairy society has eased up significantly since then, and his discomfort with that more casual environment puts him at odds with most people he interacts with, exacerbating his social anxiety. Nicolas is already extremely introverted and prefers to be by himself, enjoying one of his various hobbies: baking, fashion design, or painting. Despite his more reserved personal style, he's actually very creative, and is never more at peace than when he's working on a new painting or piece of clothing. Nicolas was the first character that I intentionally wrote as being on the autism spectrum. Being a fairy, his symptoms do present a little differently than they might in a human, and the word autism is not used yet because they would not know it. But I did a lot of research into ASD while drafting Like Falling Stars to try to make Nicolas as authentic a representation as possible. And this is how I realized that I am most likely also on the spectrum. Unfortunately, at my age, it is very difficult to actually get a professional diagnosis, and with the current state of my country, I am not exactly incentivized to pursue it any harder than I already have. The main way that Nicolas's ASD presents itself is in his inability to read tone or facial expression, and his tendency to project his own feelings onto others as a result. His anxiety and his low self-esteem are reflected in everyone around him. For example, if someone is laughing in his presence, he presumes it's because they are laughing at him. It does not help that Nicolas was raised mostly in isolation, as the previous ruler of Winter and his mentor, Princess Bathilde, legitimately believed that interacting with others was too stressful for him, and that keeping him mostly apart from the rest of society was for the best. Obviously, this only made his issues worse by robbing him of the chance to develop coping skills, but she acted in ignorance, not malice. Yes, I should probably talk about that. Nicolas's title is Winter Prince of the Northern Realm, but don't let that fool you into thinking he's royalty. In Like Falling Stars, the terms prince and princess are bestowed on those fairies who manage the seasons in each of the realms. It's a job title, not a sign of royal lineage. There are royal princes and princesses, and they are typically referred to as such, with royal added on to make it clear that they are actually related to Queen Titania and King Oberon. Royal fairies also have a distinctive wing shape that includes streaming tails. You might recognize that in Anne's character page, one of her outfits has a pair of wings with these tails. Foreshadowing. Nicolas, being a frost fairy, has a pair of three-pointed wings that, when fully spread, resemble a snowflake. The spear point designs on the inside denote immense magical power and very little else. He is one of the most powerful frost fairies currently alive, probably second only to King Oberon himself, which means any lapse in control over his powers could spell ecological disaster for mortals. Also, Nicolas has gold flecks on the outer edge of his wings and blonde hair, unusual traits for frost fairies who usually have white, silver, or black hair and wings in shades of blue only. Being different from other frost fae definitely doesn't help Nicholas's social anxiety, and he overcompensates by trying to be what he thinks an ideal frost fairy should be: cold, in every sense of the word. But this is a part of his masking too. Internally, Nicholas has a lot of feelings, and whether by coincidence or by fate, Anne seems to be the one person he can connect to and share those feelings with. He doesn't have much practice with this. He still messes up and says the wrong things or assumes others' intent before asking, but he is getting better the more time he spends with his new friend. For this ref sheet, I decided that I wanted to draw him emoting intensely. It would be pretty boring if I only showed his flat masking face. And I added in a cleaned up version of an older sketch I did where Anne discovers that Nicholas has fangs. Now for some notes on character design. Nicholas does have a taste for the finer things, given that fashion is one of his special interests. But because of texture issues and a need to be seen in a very specific way, he doesn't often experiment with his own clothes. He has a certain look, and he likes to adhere to it. Long-sleeve shirts, pants, a vest or waistcoat, and a tie or cravat. He keeps his hair tied up because it's tidier that way. Also because he doesn't like the way it brushes against his neck when it's down, though he does take his hair ribbon out when he's sleeping. Even in his fancy outfit for the ball, he pretty much sticks to the same style of dress, with a few added embellishments. He's a little more creative when designing other people's outfits. For his own style, he prefers the look of Victorian and Regency-era clothing. He wears his hair long and in a ponytail because it reminds him of how Oberon has his hair, and he is nothing if not an Oberon fanboy. All Seelie, or court fae, have an innate adoration of the king and queen, but Nicholas's idolization of Oberon goes beyond that, to the point of styling himself after the king. Other notable features are his high, prominent cheekbones and ears that point up more than they point out. Also, it needs to be said, this man has no ass. With every character corner, I like to list 3 positive and 3 negative traits of the character. For Nicholas, I would say that his negative qualities are pretty readily apparent. He's aloof, quick to make judgments, and does not communicate well after those judgments are made, which means it's even harder for him to overcome and change an incorrect idea. His positives are buried a little deeper under that icy exterior, but they are there. Nicholas is actually incredibly generous. I imagine he'd like Rarity from My Little Pony quite a bit. He has no trouble giving to others. And while he has few friends, he cares very deeply for them, even getting offended on their behalf when they talk poorly of themselves. Lastly, Nicholas is very creative. I don't put character songs on the ref sheets, but there are tons of songs that I associate with each of my characters, so I'll share 3. It should come as no surprise that Nicholas could relate to Elsa from Frozen, specifically the Broadway musical version of her. He'd probably be upset that movie Elsa doesn't consider her powers a gift, but Broadway Elsa gets a little more context and moments to reflect on her life and emotions. Dangerous to Dream would probably pluck at Nicholas's heartstrings, particularly the line, "I practice every single day for this, so why is it so hard?" He would also relate to Luna's righteous anger in the My Little Pony fan song The Moon Rises. This is the second My Little Pony reference in this video. Can you tell what media I was really into when I crafted this character? I even have a video where I turned several characters from Like Falling Stars into ponies. The last song I would choose, if I had to cut it down to 3, would be So Close by John McLaughlin from Enchanted. Nicholas is big into musicals, and what can I say? He likes the idea of getting to belt out your emotions without anyone around you actually hearing it. The song probably more closely aligns to his character in the sequel to Like Falling Stars, which I am working on, New Constellations, where he starts slowly coming to the realization that his feelings for Anne might not be exactly friendship, but it's going to take him years, and years, and years to figure out and act on what he actually wants their relationship to be. 30, to be precise. Finally, it's time to add the queer community hearts that apply. Previously, I had both Anne and Nicholas simply listed as bi. While I think that label still works for Anne, Nicholas is a little more complicated. I think he's more likely to be demi-romantic and demisexual. He's more than a little startled when he starts developing romantic and physical attraction to Anne because it's never happened to him before, which will be very fun to explore. So that's Nicholas, an emotional, anxious wreck hiding behind an ice-thin facade of indifference at best and cruelty at worst. If you want to learn more about Nicholas and his story, you can read Like Falling Stars. It's available anywhere you can buy books online, and the ebook version is free in my coffee shop. I appreciate any support you can throw my way, be it a tip, a review, or becoming a supporter on Ko-fi or Patreon to get access to more perks. What season is your favorite, and which character corner are you most looking forward to? Leave a comment below to let me know, and keep growing until next time, Rose Garden.